So I just want to start off by thanking everyone for your commitment in maintaining the important work of the Los Angeles Veterans Collaborative, especially now during these very challenging times. I'll introduce Jessica Peak. She is the co-chair for the Higher Education Working Group. And Jessica, you have the floor.
Good morning. I do want to thank our LAVC leadership team, Amy, Giselle, Jim, for allowing me the platform, allowing our working group the platform to be able to present today. So thank you so much for that opportunity. Okay, so one issue that did come up was enrollment, and more so enrollment where our veterans at the time of having to transition to the online learning modality, some of our veterans were choosing to drop their courses for various reasons that were COVID related, and not necessarily that they had that they were testing positive, but more of the level of anxiety, the level of uncertainty with their classes, because their option to be online is really not their preference. So we did see a drop of enrollment from student veterans, and not just that, but also a concern for the upcoming terms. So at the moment, the majority of our campuses are transitioning or maintaining the online modality through the end of the fall semester. So this is something that is occurring, and it's definitely an issue that we have to work with in moving forward in serving our student veterans. So enrollment is definitely one of our areas of concern, and we wanted to be able to reach out to our LAVC community to be able to remind those of you who serve our veterans, whether you're the veteran or you work with clients who are veterans, or you know veterans within your own network who are considering higher education, wanted to make sure that you know that it is an option still for vets to enroll into college, and there is plenty of support. So today's slides are going to cover reasons to enroll into higher education, the support that's available to our veterans once they are in our community colleges, in our four-year universities, and how you can guide veterans to get started and taking that step to enroll. So currently, there are 2.1 million students in the California Community College system. That's across the state, 2.1 million students total. There are 54,368 students that have been identified as active duty, veterans, reservists, National Guard. And within LA County, we have approximately 14,200 student veterans who are enrolled in classes. That's a pretty high number to think about, and it's definitely a niche within our within our veteran community that we definitely have to continue to address. So in choosing higher education, so essentially I put up here a few reasons why students in general, non-traditional students in general, will seek out higher education. And these are across the board, whether you are a veteran, whether you are, or if you're not. Yes, for community colleges. So the job market analysis. We do have students who start with us, student veterans who start with us, and they have employment goals. They have career goals. They may or may not know what those goals are. As a veterans counselor, I can tell you that we do have vets that come to us once they have separated from service and completely undecided with what career choice they want to pursue. And of course, that leads to what major they want to pursue. And oftentimes it's even a matter of, I don't even know where to get started or how to start. I just know I want to be in college. I just know I want to start. So we have the employment goals and the career goals. And according to the job market analysis, and I took this from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics from 2019, a higher degree results in lower unemployment rate and higher salary earnings. So this is a really big reason why we do see our student veterans coming to our campuses to pursue their employment and career goals, and just to create themselves, create more marketability for themselves and to find that career. of course, they come to our campuses for educational goals. They're pursuing either an associate's degree, local degrees, associate degrees, associate science degrees. Some are transfer to pursue certain programs. We do also receive quite a few veterans who come back to our community colleges and universities to prepare for graduate school. So perhaps they majored in sociology, but now they want to pursue, let's say, medical school. So now they need to prepare for this. So we do see plenty of our veterans who actually have bachelor's degrees and are pursuing grad school and preparing through our systems. We also see career advancement and professional development as a reason why our veterans come to our campuses. One example of this would be, we have a training program, Sheriff's Academy training through ELAC, and it's 18 units worth, and it's about 3 months. And essentially, if they're using the GI Bill, they would enroll into their Sheriff Academy. They can use their GI Bill and receive 100% full-time housing allowance during this time that they are pursuing the goal. There are other certificate programs as well that they do pursue for professional development purposes. Next, another reason why we see our vets coming into our campuses is for CTEs, to complete short-term certificate programs. Oh, I'm sorry, can you go back to the last slide, Giselle? Thank you. So the CTE programs. So our community colleges offer various types of certificate programs. There's programs in cybersecurity, IT, networking, programs to become a physical therapy assistant, accounting assistant. And so these are quick programs that once you complete them, once our students complete them, they're added to their transcript, their official transcript, and they can also add them to their resume. So again, it makes their resume much, and their own candidacy for employment much more marketable to be able to add these various short-term certificate programs. The fourth reason I actually left out, and it's one of our biggest reasons why our veterans choose to come to higher education, and that would definitely be to use the GI Bill. For many of our veterans who choose to use the GI Bill at the community college, for example, and even if they save it for the university, their GI Bill is treated as an investment, and it's treated almost like their job. So going to school full-time is their job. And the current rate for their MHA is for full-time E5 with dependents at 100% full-time enrollment is $3,100 per month. So every year we do see that it increases, but that is a big reason definitely why our veterans do choose to come to college. Please keep in mind, though, that a lot of our students at the community college do choose to save their benefits and may not even use their benefits because they're saving them for the university or even for graduate school. Next slide, please. So the type of support that's out there for our veterans once they enroll, and what we see in terms of wellness and camaraderie and what they'll find at the colleges and universities. So first of all, it does bring brings purpose and engagement into their everyday life. Deciding on a goal, once they decide on that goal, it brings a new sense of motivation. And as their veterans counselor, I will definitely put that counselor hat in speaking today. But as their counselor, and when you see one of our veterans, one of our student veterans who went from undecided to, okay, this is what I want to do, there is that sense of purpose, that light at the end of the tunnel, and it is refreshing for them. And that new goal makes them want to be more engaged with life, more engaged with their studies, with their professors, with their classmates. Engaging in discussions. I'll be honest, not all of our vets want to be a part of the discussions that are happening in the classrooms, but many are engaged with those discussions. But overall, just being a part of a group, an academic group and an academic community being a part of that community. And once they're in our academic community, and sometimes they will choose to find the veteran community within the academic community that they're in. Our campuses support transition from service member to civilian, from even if they separated years ago. Well, now there's a transition from, transition of going into being a student. But we do support that transition at the community colleges and at the universities as well. I will say though, at the community colleges, across the board, we can probably agree that the community colleges brings that sense of, that preparation and that training. So if our students are planning to transfer to a four-year university, we're preparing them. We are bringing them on board. We're showing them how to be a student. We're showing them how to engage with, instructors, best practices for student success. Even when it comes to just checking your student email and getting used to that. So we're assisting them with this transition. Our VRCs are an essential part of transitioning and supporting through that transition, supporting through that connection. We do provide so many different services through our VRCs across all of our campuses. This would be for all community colleges, UCs, and Cal States. The majority of our campuses do offer Veterans Resource Centers. What we offer may vary, but many of our campuses are offering with our VRCs peer tutoring, peer mentors. We have access to computers. We have access to mental health resources. Many of us have therapists that are working from our VRCs as well. So we try to make it a more holistic approach in serving and providing that support through their transition. Fostering a connection to other veterans and resources for student vets. So definitely through the VRCs, we promote workshops. We offer even barbecues. So these are just ways that we try to connect our veterans. And right now, with COVID, just like our classes had to move into an online modality, all of our departments, all of our VRCs made that switch as well. So all of our VRCs are still open and we are virtual and we are there to still support our students. I just want to give a couple of examples just so you know if you are working with a veteran and you're thinking of, or you're encouraging enrollment into college, into higher education, do know just a few ideas of the type of support right now virtually. We have Mount SAC and UCLA that are offering a virtual VRC, and they have been very successful in providing a space where they have almost like it's their office, but it's virtual through Zoom. And so their veterans are, checking in with them, going to ask questions to their veterans counselor, to their certifying official, but it's very engaging and very active. PCC is still offering their weekly AA meetings. They're providing weekly workshops, and they've also provided up to around $8,000 worth in emergency food and gas cards. ELAC, what we have available to our students, is very similar to what others are providing as well, but we also have a live chat feature. So on our Veterans Resource Center website, you can go to our VRC site and you can just live chat with any of our peer mentors, with our counselors, our disability specialists, our certifying official, but you can reach out and live chat with any one of us during our business hours. So we try to make ourselves very available to our veterans during this time. So if they're considering making that step towards enrolling, we're there for them and able to answer questions. One other feature that many of our VRCs have offered is loaning out laptops to our students during this time. So even during this time, if they don't have access to a laptop, quite a few of our campuses can connect them to that accessibility. Next slide, please. Okay, so financial and academic support that we offer. I'm just cover the community colleges in terms of tuition rates, because like I said, community college is typically where veterans will start and then choose to transfer to a university if that is part of their educational goal. But at the community colleges, it is $46 per unit. Students can choose to use the California College Promise, which essentially, for those of you who attended probably at least 2 years back, or sooner than that, there was something called the BOG fee waiver. So the California College Promise, essentially, it replaced the BOG fee waiver. So when you apply for financial aid through FAFSA, and if you're found eligible by being a student, you're determined that you're a resident and you have financial need, then the California College Promise will pay for all of your classes. Really, with the California College Promise, you essentially can take any classes that you want. You don't necessarily have to take classes that you need to meet your goal. You could take classes that that you feel might benefit your resume, for example. But your classes will be covered by the California College Promise. Now, with VA educational benefits, this applies to only VA approved programs, which means campuses that have been approved to provide benefits. The difference between using your VA, veterans using VA educational benefits compared to the California College Promise is that the VA will pay for your tuition if you are eligible, just like the California College Promise will. But with the VA benefits, you are only going to be covered for classes that you need to complete your goal. Whereas with the California College Promise, like I mentioned, you can take whichever classes you choose to take. So oftentimes veterans will choose to apply for financial aid, be found eligible for the California College Promise, and use their VA educational benefits all at the same time. So there's more options available to them when they choose their courses. Their MHA is based, which is their monthly housing allowance, is based on pretty much where their majority of their classes are taken, or their zip code. It really depends on what we look at. The rate is based, as I mentioned, on E5 with dependents. And oftentimes what veterans choose to do as well is on top of using VA educational benefits, they'll also enroll into a VA work study program. Now, VA work study allows student veterans to earn additional money on top of VA educational benefits. So with VA work study, I will just go ahead and give an example with ELAC. With our VA work study, they are allowed to work up to 25 hours per week, and they get paid minimum wage, but it's non-taxable. So with our VA work study, he chooses to work anywhere from 15 hours a week to 25 hours a week, as long as 25 is the cap, because that's pretty much what you can work through. Anyone can work through work study, but it allows additional income on top of benefits. There are other benefits too, such as Yellow Ribbon and Forever GI Bill. I don't, just for the sake of time, that would be a whole presentation on its own. But I do want to cover essentially how it works right now with online learning and getting the monthly housing allowance. And so it's important to know that with the recent COVID law that was enacted to support and protect student veterans and those using VA educational benefits, Senate Bill 3503 was passed, and essentially it allows our recipients of VA educational benefits to maintain the same type of benefits as they were when they were in person. So they are protected through December 21st. So our schools are offering all online classes, and through December 21st, if a course was supposed to be offered in person, but it was converted to be online, that is still considered an in-person course, and they will receive in-person BAH rate. So that's something to consider, because many veterans are thinking, what may prevent them from enrolling is, I don't want to get half of that MHA because I'm taking all online classes. But that's not actually the case. So if you are assisting a veteran who is interested in enrolling, please send them to the VRC and we can help them develop their schedule to make sure that they have at least one, what should have been an in-person class, but is now online, section number and as part of their schedule so they can continue to earn the MHA rate for in-person studies. It's kind of confusing, it's a lot of information, but I think that's a really important point to bring up, especially because, we want our veterans to feel that they're definitely going to be using and maximizing their GI Bill and not getting only half the rate because of online classes. Okay. I also wanted to bring up, just really quick before we move on to the next slide, Department of Rehabilitation. Now DOR is a program that is offered through the state. Essentially when we have veterans who have exhausted their benefits but want to come back to school, and let's just say that they have a disability but it's not service connected, DOR is a great option because with DOR they will pay for the training to achieve the career goal and employment goal, just like voc rehab would. They're very similar to voc rehab. So they will pay for that training, which means they'll pay for a degree. If they need a bachelor's degree, the veteran needs a bachelor's degree to become whatever career goal they want to achieve. And then DOR will pay for all of their schooling, will provide them with laptops, will provide them with all the books that they need to be successful. So DOR is a great option to recommend to veterans who are considering school but have exhausted the GI Bill, who may not be eligible for financial aid for whatever reasons, who have a disability but it's not service connected. So Department of Rehabilitation is definitely a great resource for our veterans considering enrolling into school. The CalVet fee waiver, I want to jump back up to that really quickly. That is for dependents, but it is definitely a way for our dependents to attend any of the community colleges, any of the UCs, and any of the Cal States for free, so long as their parent who is a veteran has a service-connected disability. So that's definitely a huge benefit in working with veterans to let them know that their kids have that benefit as well, possibly. They would have to apply to see if they're eligible. Next slide, please. Okay, so now that you know the different types of support that's out there for veterans once they start the college, how do you get them started? So in working with veterans, you want them to know that essentially the first step is explore what's out there. So there is a website, and I really encourage you to refer veterans to this website. It's the California Community College Chancellor's Office website. And you can explore all the programs at all the community colleges in California. If you're looking for the universities, so UCs and Cal States, you can go onto assist.org, or you can go to their own separate university websites to explore their programs as well. But you want to assist the veteran who's considering going to school with first exploring what the colleges offer and who offers the program that they are trying to complete. You want to tell them that they need to apply. So if they're going to start off at a community college, which again I mentioned, our students start off at the community college and then they make their way to transfer, they're going to want to go to CCC Apply to apply to that specific campus. Typically with our community colleges, students may be notified right away that they have a student ID number. Sometimes it could take up to 48 hours to be issued a student ID number. And so if once the student is waiting for, when they're waiting for their student ID, they can apply for financial aid in the meantime. Also visit and contact the campus VRC or veterans point of contact. So that's good advice, whether you're a veteran, a service member, you're a dependent, that's just good advice. Go find the VRC. Tell them to go find the VRC, and we'll help them along the way. So by this time, they should have their student ID number, and that's when they want to meet with the counselor. You want to meet with the counselor to develop an educational plan. Again, the VRC will direct our veterans to the counselors that are most familiar with the GI Bill, the counselors that are most familiar to resources that are available to student veterans. Now, transferring to a four-year university, just a really quick overview. Our students need 60 transferable units to go to a UC or to a CSU. Private schools will vary. USC, for example, requires 30 minimum transferable units. So it does vary, which is why it's important to send veterans to the veterans counselor. Upper division versus lower division. So with upper division, that would be a student who has 60 transferable units, and they're ready to transfer out and start taking their major coursework requirements. Lower division students, so if you have a veteran who just wants to start right away at a university, typically the universities are going to ask them for their high school transcripts. They're going to ask them maybe for SAT scores. But this is a big reason why many of our universities do recommend also that students start at the community college first, because as an upper division transfer, they don't need high school transcripts any longer. They don't need any SAT scores, depending on the school they're trying to apply to. And then, of course, there's also degrees with guarantee for the Cal States, which in another workshop, I can definitely go over that. Next slide, please. I just want to finish off, and I apologize for the time that I've gone over. I really do. There's just so much information I'd like to share. But there are higher education resources, and I will work with Giselle to make sure everyone does receive this page. So in working with veterans, you want to make sure that these are the different sites that they can look into for admissions requirements, exploring majors, and California Community College programs, and additional resources here. Ultimately, though, if anything, send them to your local campus Veterans Resource Center. We will help them. So just reach out to us. Next slide, please. And finally, if you have any questions, please, don't hesitate, reach out to me. I can always help you. I may be the director and counselor for ELOC's VRC, but I think I can speak for all of our campuses that we want to just make sure that our veterans are finding the program that is right for them, and we will not hesitate to direct our vets to whoever they need to go to at whatever campus that may be. So if you want to get started with having our veterans just reach out directly to me, I can make sure that they find the appropriate programs as well, whether it's at ELAC or PCC or Mount SAC or anywhere else. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jessica, for that informative presentation. Up next, we have John Gutierrez, the Deputy Director of the Veteran Services at JVS SoCal.
Okay, so if you can go to the next slide. A little background for those that don't know what the Veterans AJCC is. There's about 52 AJCCs in LA County alone, and the Veterans AJCC is the only one that's specifically dedicated to veterans and eligible spouses. Some of the things that we offer are on, as you see on the slide, we'll do workshops from resume workshops, interview workshops, all the way to sending somebody to training, and it's fully funded, no cost to the veteran. And we work with employers as well to get their needs taken care of. Next slide. So for the COVID response, this is a snapshot of what we did in the last 2 months from May to June. We switched over to virtual workshops really quickly. As I mentioned, we can do the resume workshops, interview skills. We did virtual job searching and kind of how to navigate the changing environment where you were no longer interviewing in person. So that's a lot of the things that we did. We were designated an essential service, so we continue to operate. We're typically housed in Patriotic Hall. But currently we're housed in a community center, Centro Maravilla in East Los Angeles. So we're still operating, we're still providing services. From May to June, we received a Keep LA Working Grant and the Worker Resiliency Grant through the County Workforce Department. And we were able to provide over 95,000 in supportive services to veterans. We served 75 veterans through that. And there was others that we were able to serve privately through donations and grants from other organizations. We've hosted 6 virtual recruitments. So it took us a little while once we shut down services somewhere in March. So it took us a little while to get back up and running, but we were able to still provide recruitments and still find businesses that continue to hire during the whole pandemic. Next slide. So the top areas that we've seen for assistance, most of the things that we did was rental and mortgage assistance. And the kind of like the high point on the rental and mortgage assistance, we were paying up to $1,800 in someone's mortgage. We made, for those that didn't have rental or car payment, rental or mortgage assistance that needed to be done, we did car payments, utilities, car repairs, insurance, and we've actually purchased quite a few laptops. As a result of everything that's happened, we really identified the fact that a lot of our veterans have limited access to resources when it comes to technology, so laptops, internet access. I think a lot of people took for granted the fact that we all assume that we all have internet and we have all this access. And when we really found out that that's not the case. So once the Starbucks and the libraries and our computer lab shut down, a lot of the veterans didn't have access to these things. So we've been providing laptops and getting them the resources that they need, all on this list. Next slide. So one of the nice things that we're working on right now, and this is in partnership with the 5th Supervisory District, we're doing the Northrop Grumman Veteran Hiring Initiative. Really good jobs out there. We have everything from the aviation mechanic is kind of the entry point, and then all the way up to management positions. And we're talking stuff that starts in the 20 plus an hour, all the way up to 60, 70, 100,000, depending on their qualifications. So there's 2 pieces to this. The first part is if you don't have any experience and you're interested in getting into the aviation field, there's the aircraft fabrication course called the AFAB that's provided by the Antelope Valley College. We're hoping to start one in August 2020 if everything allows for it to go, because it is a lot of hands-on in-person laboratory time. So that's one of the things that we're looking at doing here this August, and that leads to an interview with Northrop, and they have a very high placement rate from those that complete that course. This is going to be a veterans cohort, so it's all going to be veterans, and we're looking to have at having peer support and assistance to help the veterans get through this training. It's pretty rigorous, but it's definitely a lot of benefit once you're done. So the other part is if you have any experience, any mechanical experience, it doesn't have to be in aviation. It can be in anything as far as like motor transportation folks that worked on heavy machinery and heavy equipment. If you're just familiar with tools and maintenance, you can qualify for some of these positions. We have non-destructive testing, so there's a lot of good opportunities there. And they're continuing to hire even with everything that's going on in the pandemic. So it's a really good opportunity. The bulk of these jobs are in Palmdale, but there is a few dozen jobs that are available in the El Segundo area and other areas here in southern Los Angeles. Next slide. So if anybody needs anything, has anybody that's interested, you can always email veterans at JVS SoCal. That is the best way to get a hold of us, because of course, with our building being closed, we don't have access we don't have as much access to phones, and we're operating really remote. So if you email us at this email, we'll be able to connect with the veterans. So after this, I want to introduce Vanessa Lopez, the local veterans employment rep from EDD. She's going to talk a little bit more on the numbers of the impact of COVID. So next slide.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. This information I actually went through Department of Labor and of course our EDD Labor Market Information Department. So veteran employment rate for 2019 was actually at its lowest. at its lowest in 19 years. It was at a 3.1% last year. This year in June, our unemployment rate was last month 8.8. It did go down from a 9.1 from the previous month. The comparable non-veteran rate was 11.1 in June. Of course, this did have some repercussions on veterans' employment, and some of the stuff that the veterans are seeing, that how they were impacted, were loss of wages, of course, many unemployed due to less hours, cutting hours, or just cutting certain days. Employers did stop hiring, and then everything went virtual. Excuse me, everything went virtual. And like John said, many veterans weren't prepared for that. They didn't have the tools necessary, the internet or the computers. A lot of them were really had used a lot of the AJCCs, the CRCs with the laptops or the computers, or they would even go in and have their virtual interview. So this created a lot of challenges. And not only that, but a lot of the veterans, well, some of the veterans are not tech savvy, so that's also another challenge. A lot of veterans lost resources, childcare, and this had a big impact on their finances. Fortunately, there's resources out there that are there to help with those financial hardships, but of course, they need to be able to have access to the internet to be able to understand, hey, let me look up some resources so that can help me. Not only veterans in the job market, but also veteran-owned businesses are going through hardships. Many have closed their doors. Even though they have some resources for the veteran-owned businesses, not a lot of them were able to make it, unfortunately. Next slide, please. So here we have the Los Angeles County UI claims by educational level. So here is the report that almost half of all military veterans hold a college degree, AA, BA, MA, or postgraduates. And as you can see, it goes, the diagram for initial UI claims starts from 1/2020 and goes down to May of 2020. And it just pretty much clear shows associates as the highest one during the time of the pandemic. Next slide, please. Employment trends and declining industries. So the hardest hit were food, services, and retail, of course. That's slowly coming back. The current number of unemployed veterans by occupation group is management, followed by retail sales, and finally protective services. And the post-vocational training occupation, fast growing, are LVN, medical assistant, and healthcare industry actually has a very bright outlook and will continue until 2026. Most common occupations are nurses assistant and truck drivers transportation. Currently, the declining industries are financial activities such as finance and insurance, real estate, and rental and leasing offices. Next slide, please. And here is just to sum it all up, California's number of employed veterans by occupation group. As you can see, management is up on top, sales and related, protective services, office and administrative support, transportation, and material moving. And unfortunately, at the bottom, we have education, training, and library. But as you can see, you know, where the veterans are focusing in on. And that's all I have. Thank you for having me. If you have any questions, I'll be on the chat.
Hey, Vanessa, somebody asked if the unemployment rate was for LA County or it was a national rate.
That was LA County.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, yeah, I don't know if I think we're ready to move on to the next speaker. So thank you for having us. And if anybody needs anything, please contact me and we will get back to you. Hi, Giselle.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry, I have a Something's saying my sound is off. Okay, so thank you very much, John, for your presentation, and thank you, Vanessa, for all the information. For any additional information, please feel free to read the email, and I'll go ahead and send you all the information that I've received from John and Vanessa.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
also gave you that, Giselle, you also have that flyer for the Northrop if anybody's interested.
I do, so I'll send that to everybody in the follow-up email. Thank you so much. Thanks for your presentation. Up next is our LABC Chair, Dennis Tucker. He'll be introducing our next guest speaker.
Hey, thanks, Giselle. Good morning, guys. Really quickly, I'm just going to jump right in because we have a short period of time. Two things really quick before I introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Mike McNeil from SoCal Gas. He's currently on vacation. I twisted his arm for lunch, and I told him that I will pay him lunch as soon as he's back in town. And thank you for joining us. So if you see him in a tank top poolside, please forgive him, right? So Mike McNeil is the SMS Stakeholder Engagement Manager for SoCal Gas and has been with the company over 18 years. He's also the founder and chairperson for Veterans Advancing Leader and Optimizing Results, the VALOR program for SoCal Gas, which is an employee resource group dedicated to supporting veterans, active military service members, and their families, both within the company and the community they serve. VALOR has existed since 2015 and is comprised of veterans and non-veterans from across SoCal Gas who focused on key objectives to increase engagement and building a strong community within the organization. And without further ado, Mike, it's all yours, brother.
Hey guys, can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, Dennis. I appreciate the introduction. So I'm not poolside today, and but I am on vacation, so I just wanted to make sure that Dennis reached out and just asked to be part of this great event, and just hearing the fact that there's so many of us still focused on supporting our veterans. It's really great to hear, because I'm sure a lot of you may remember a few years back when veteran employment and making sure that we support our veterans and military service members, it was kind of the flavor of the month, right? It was kind of the thing that people were focusing on. You saw it more in the media. A lot of more companies were kind of jumping on board with it, and then over time it just kind of fizzled out, and you weren't hearing any more about it in the media, and then it was just kind of on to the next thing. And so it's great to see so many organizations that are still focused on supporting veterans, and with SoCal Gas, we're no exception. Part of our culture is supporting our military service members and veterans. We in the past, we haven't been very vocal about it. I'll be honest. It's just been kind of part of what we do, and so I'm really proud of the fact that we now have the VALOR program, and I'll get into that a little bit. I don't have any slides, but what I'll do is just briefly talk about the VALOR program and what we do. And if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer those questions. So within SoCal Gas, we have just shy of about 8,000 employees. And of those 8,000 employees, last time I checked, there's roughly 150 to 200 employees who are veterans or who have self-identified as veterans. And those numbers, fluctuate depending on retirements and whatnot. But within our company, in 2015, VALOR started off as just an idea. It started as an idea to connect newly hired veterans with existing veterans, because we understand that the transition from from military to civilian, that's a transition in and of itself, right? And then we also understand within the corporate sector that there's a transition from civilian to corporate life, but then there's also a transition from corporate life to SoCal Gas culture, right? And to the utilities culture. And so understanding that transition, we thought that it makes sense to have kind of a battle buddy type of system where we have specific agenda items that these two employees discuss. It's specifically focused on getting to know the system, getting to know the company culture, the kind of the organizational structure of the company, some of the major programs that are available. And it really is it's an onboarding process to where we want our veterans to understand that, hey, this is a place where you are wanted, where you are welcome. Now, I never served in the military myself. That's something that people automatically assume of me, just from being the leader of the Valor program. But for me, it's it's really just been a passion to help people and to support our service members. And so Valor focuses on, so from the onboarding program, from the mentoring program, Valor grew to what it is today. So today we have the support of 4 operating directors from the company and within their organizations, they oversee over just about half of our SoCal Gas workforce. And then we also have the support of our CEO as well as other executives in the company. So we have really strong support from our leadership. And with Valor, there's 4 main objectives. Number 1 is recruiting. The second one is onboarding, and then there's development, and then outreach. So those 4 objectives are really where we live when it comes to what we do, because we understand that we can't do everything. I don't think there's any organization out there. I think we can all agree that there's no organization that can really do everything, but we can all do something. And so with recruiting, the focus is to partner with our staffing group, partner with our HR groups to make sure that they're going to the right veteran events, to make sure we have partnerships with our local colleges and universities. And when they go to these events, to make sure there's someone at that table or at that booth who can speak the language of of someone who might be applying for a job, who served in the military. We also have people within HR who focus specifically on hiring veterans, and so when we get an applicant who served in the military, we have specific people that will look at those resumes, and it's a pretty much the same process as our normal hires, but just with a few nuances, because we understand that when it comes to military culture, one of the things that's really important is feedback, right? So when we have a veteran or someone who served in the military who applies for a job, we emphasize the fact that, hey, we need to make sure we get back to that person either with a yes or no or some type of follow-up, right? There needs to be some type of communication. And another piece of that is the fact that Valor, just in membership, just in the people across the company, we have about 50 or 60 people across the company who are members of the Valor team. And those people act as advocates both in the company and outside the company, and act as kind of a bridge for veterans. So when we have someone who applies for a job, a lot of times they'll connect with me, or they'll connect with one of our Valor team members, and then one of us will then carry that over to our staffing team and say, hey, this looks like a good candidate. You might want to look at this person. And we've also worked with our staffing people to try and translate those military resumes that come in. So it's been a really beneficial program and partnership within the company. The other part of it, so I'll focus a little bit on and I have about 4 minutes. So you know what, and I think a better way, so how about we do this? We can do, if you guys are okay with it, how about we do a Q&A? If you guys have some questions about what we're doing, there's a lot to cover. And so I just don't want to go on and on talking without giving everyone a chance to ask questions about what we're doing at SoCal Gas.
Hi, this is Vanessa. I do have a question. Is
Yeah.
this information on your website, or how does one get this information?
Well, so there is information about Valor on the website, and it's actually funny you asked that. I met last week, and I'm meeting this week and next week with our HR team to update the information on the website. But as far as applying for jobs at SoCal Gas, for veterans, it's the same process as it is for everyone else. One thing we emphasize is that you have to apply. Because until someone actually applies for a position, we don't have them in our system. And so if they a lot of times we get asked the question, I get asked the question, hey, where can I send my resume, or who can I give my information to? Step one is always apply for the position that you want. But yeah, it's all on the SoCalGas.com website. And if you want to see job openings, I just looked, there are about 38 job openings at SoCal Gas right now that are posted, and if we have and generally off and on there are field type of positions. So we have two positions that that are entry-level positions that we've been posting externally that are usually internal postings. So one is the appliance service technician position, which is basically the technicians that service the residential gas meters and gas appliances. And then we have our construction technician positions that have recently are getting posted externally. And those are the folks who, work on the gas pipelines and the distribution system. And those jobs, they start anywhere from $28 to $35 an hour. And they are union represented jobs, full benefits, the whole bit. So I would encourage you to go to SoCalGas.com and check those out. I saw a question, do I focus on veteran hiring? I think that's what it was.
So I have one question in the Q&A, the first one that popped up. Is there a separate web link for veterans to apply?
No, there isn't. It's the standard web link for everyone.
Okay, and the next question, do you have data on onboarding veterans' success?
Yes. So with our onboarding program, and the point of the onboarding program, it's really for engagement and retention, right? So the way that we gauge that is kind of our retention rate. So we look at that every year. And so since we started the onboarding program, we've been able to retain more veterans.
Okay, next question is, once the veteran applies, is there a veteran HR recruiter who follows up with the candidates?
Yes. So, and that person, that person is not I'll talk about what they are instead of what they aren't. So yes, we have a veteran HR person who does follow up with veterans that apply. But that's only if they self-identify as veterans. So that's the one caveat of that.
Okay, and we have time for one more question. You said that you have a team that translates military resumes. What does that entail? Is there a better way to word the resume?
Well, as far as the resume goes, we with SoCal Gas, and I think with any job, right? It's best to word your resume as it relates to the position that you're applying for, right? So the more you have information in your resume that relates to the job that you're applying for, the better your chances of that resume being reviewed. But when it comes to our military, people who basically, send in their DD-214 or, just specifically their military experience, and there's just a laundry list of, their military service record. What we do with those is within the HR team, they'll then send that resume to either me or someone on the Valor team to translate that resume, just to say, okay, well, yeah, this person actually has experience as a project manager, or this person might actually be good as a supervisor, or this person might be good as an IT technician. That's what I mean by translation. Anything else?
Well, this one is one last question, and then we'll have to move on. If a veteran does not have a DD-214 on hand, can they use a letter of service?
Well, so I'll speak about veteran hiring in general. When it comes to people's military service record, a letter of service it would be fine. And I can't speak too much from the HR standpoint because I'm not in HR, and so that process it's essentially the same for veterans and non-veterans. So if someone applies and they say that they served in the military, it's not that we'll go digging for a DD-214, we'll go digging for a military a letter of service. Those things can come out later. The main thing is we just want to hire the best candidate for the job. And if it happens to be someone who served in the military, then usually that candidate will either come to me or to a member of the Valor team, or that their name will come to me, and then we can go from there. And it really depends on the situation whether we would need to see their service record, or whether they served in the military. But the short answer is yes, that will do. Okay, I think that's it. Unless there's any more.
Okay, so sorry.
Right.
Thank you so much, Mike,
No problem.
for talking to us about the Valor program. This conversation can absolutely be continued in the Career Advancement Breakout Working Group for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we are over on time. I'm just going to introduce our next speaker, our co-chair to the Recreation and Rehabilitation Work Group, Howard Brodwin, will say a few words in remembrance of Angela Madsen, United States Marine Corps veteran, Paralympian, and LGBTQ activist. Howard, feel free to begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. Morning, everybody. So I just wanted to just take a moment to acknowledge Angela. Angela passed June 22nd, and she was actually on her second attempt of rowing across the Pacific Ocean from Long Beach to Hawaii. And that kind of gives you a little glimpse into what Angela was all about. And her accolades were pretty impressive. She's a U.S. Marine Corps veteran. She had a service-connected disability that left her a paraplegic. And she was a homeless vet for many years. And thanks to, I believe, a lot of the folks at Rancho Los Amigos, was introduced to adaptive sports and kind of took to it. And it was a transformational moment for her and put her on a trajectory to where she competed for the U.S. rowing team, won 4 gold medals and 1 silver in world championships, was a 2-time Paralympian in rowing in 2008 and 2016. She was also a track and field athlete in the throws, and in 2012 in London competed on the track and field team and won a bronze medal in the shot put. But her biggest thing were rowing across oceans, and she was certainly one to share all of that with anybody who asked. She was the first woman with a disability to row across the Atlantic Ocean. In 2009, she and a teammate were the first women to row across the Indian Ocean. And a year later, she was part of a team of women that circumnavigated Great Britain. So she was a pretty impressive woman. She started a rowing program based out of Long Beach, California Adaptive Rowing, and was really a pillar and and a leader in the Paralympic movement and the adaptive sports movement here in the region. So it's a big loss, and everybody's still kind of coming to terms with it. And there's several events going on, including next week. The Angel City Games is going to kind of dedicate their entire virtual event to Angela. She was a big part of all the work that we did at the games over the years. But I just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge, her and her contribution. She was with us last year when we did our event for the Rec Rehab working group. We had a Rec and Wellness Expo at the Westwood VA with the UCLA Veteran Family Wellness Center, and Angela was there with her erg machines doing rowing clinics, and that was Angela. Anytime you said, "Hey, I'm going to do an event for veterans," she was there. And so it's a big loss, but I just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge her. I think we've hopefully included some information on her organization and what she did in the Salute report. There's certainly some info at her website, which is rowoflife.org. And then there's also a small fundraiser to try to raise a little bit of money. Angela's body is actually in Tahiti. She was recovered from the ocean, so it's in Tahiti, and her boat is adrift. So there's a fundraiser to try to bring her and her boat back to Long Beach so she can be put to rest here. But thank you. Sorry to be the bearer of the bad news, but we want to acknowledge Angela, and if anything, she left doing what she loved out on the open ocean. So thank you guys. Appreciate the time.
Thank you so much, Howard, and thank you everybody for joining us today.